Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? We have talked for a while now about Saints offseason predictions. You know how I feel. I don't think it's going to be a great season for New Orleans. I think they're going to miss the playoffs, and I think Dennis Allen's getting fired. And I tell you candidly, every time we see a prediction, some type of predictive model pop up, we're going to talk about it because it's either going to validate, confirm, or disconfirm my and other people's opinions about this team or Derek Carr. So if it's tiered rankings that are subjective, if it is objective data like FPI or something like that, Pro Football Focus, we're going to talk about it. And I'm just presenting information. It's not that I'm only presenting things that support my opinion. If things counter my opinion, I'm going to share it with you as well. It's just to have all of this out there on the table as this season begins. Well, count this one as one that is dramatically in contrast to my opinion. So there is an organization, SIS, that puts out a prediction model. And this is all statistics, and the three guys that operate it are Alex Vigderman, Bryce Rossler, and James Weaver. Now, do we have that, by the way, from their podcast that I sent you? Oh, okay, no worries. Okay. They discussed this on their podcast, which is Off the Charts Football Podcast. They put out, so this effectively is a tool that they use for handicapping. Again, this isn't all pointing back to gambling. I'm not trying to make this a gambling segment, but effectively know that when odds makers put out their odds, they have some type of formula they use to set the number, to set the win totals, the lines, the numbers, all of that stuff. They have a predictive measure, a predictive formula, and that's how you get the numbers. And it's obviously very accurate. So this group of research analysts did the same thing. And they have their model that they put out there that's a predictive measure, and it helps them know whether they agree with Vegas, disagree with Vegas, so how to spend their money. So how to bet their money. That's the purpose of this. But again, it's an objective, data-driven metric that people who are gambling money, wagering money, their own money, are using to determine what to bet on. Okay, so that gives it, I think, even more credence because, you're betting your money. So DraftKings and the other sports books have the Saints win total for 2024 over under 7.5. Okay, that's the over under that we're seeing, consensus at sports books. The SIS model, after they crunched all their numbers, spreads, totals, team totals, money, everything, after they crunched all their numbers about players and schedules and everything, SIS is predicting for the New Orleans Saints in 2024 10.7 wins. Basically, almost 11. 10 or 11 wins. For the 2024 season, the differential with their model's win total predictions, the biggest differential is the Raiders and the Saints. The Raiders are projected to win 6.5 over under. This model has them at 10.4. That's a variance of plus 3.9. The Saints are at plus 3.2. The Raiders and the Saints, this model likes the most relative to what their number is in Las Vegas. Now, as I scroll through this, the SIS model has 17 teams. They projected this number for all 32 teams. On the opposite end of the spectrum, by the way, are the Philadelphia Eagles. They say the Eagles, whose projected win total is 10.5, they have the Eagles at 6.8, so minus 3.7. The Commanders, by the way, they have as the second. The Commanders over under 6.5, they have them at 3.2. So super down on the Eagles. High on the Raiders and the Saints, interestingly enough. I I'm not going to argue against this model. It's objective data, and time will tell if it proves to be accurate. But what also is interesting is when I saw the number that they had 17 teams they projected over their number, I'm like, that feels excessive. Like maybe their metrics are skewing way too much to the positive. Well, if you go look at last season's NFL win totals based on what the preseason projections were and where they finished, last year in the NFL, 13 teams went over their number. In the AFC, Buffalo, Miami, the Texans, and the Texans were a huge one. Their projected over-under was 6.5. They won 10 games. The Colts were projected 6.5. They won 9 games. So you do see variance. The Ravens were projected 10.5. They won 13. So you do see a variance. Steelers, Browns, Raiders, all over their win total in the AFC. And then in the NFC, the teams that went over their projected win total, Dallas was over. The Bucks were projected at 6.5. They won 9 games. The Packers, the Lions were projected at 9.5. They won 12. So they went plus 3.5. The Niners, Rams, who, by the way, the Rams preseason projection was 6.5. They went to 10. And the Seahawks. So in all, last year, 13 teams went over the number. I'm not saying that I believe the Saints are going to go 10-7 this year or 11-6. I feel like I do about this team. And what I've seen and what I know about this roster kind of has me believe that. No differently. But for the first time, we've seen a predictive model that really likes this New Orleans Saints team. And if you're looking for a reason to be optimistic, the SIS prediction model might have just given you the reason to. Now, is Derek Carr going to play better? Is this young offensive line going to protect him? Is the defense that's aging going to continue to play at a high level? All those things will be answered throughout the season. And we can also look at the Saints schedule like we've talked about, which is, based on opponents' win-loss record from a year ago, tied with Atlanta for the easiest schedule in the NFL. So maybe there's reason to believe that this metric, this data, isn't so crazy after all. Just, again, not just looking at things that confirm my opinion. If I see something to the contrary, I'll share it. This is an exciting thing if you're buying. They're certainly selling. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.